The biggest part of like sustainability is to just start to reduce the things that we're using. I love recycling, but that should be like the last part, I feel like, is reducing the amount of things that we use. And this solves a huge problem because we all need mannequin heads. We have Steve, the Executive Director of Industry Relations and Insight at Pivot Point. And Pivot Point has been a huge contributor to the beauty industry between education, the mannequins, and so much more, and especially in sustainability. So thank you so much, Steve, for being here with me and having this conversation.
It is my absolute pleasure.
I would love for you to like go in deeper of like who you are and what Pivot Point is so that we can get the ball rolling there. I'm sure everybody knows, but it's true.
My name is Steve Reiss. I've been in the beauty industry for quite a while. I've been involved with media, research, lots and lots of special projects, and I'm at Pivot Point, which is a third-generation family business focused exclusively on the beauty industry.
I love that. And so it's third generation. I don't think I realized that it was third generation. So tell us a little bit about what Pivot Point does and how it's been a big role in the beauty industry.
So Pivot Point was started by Leo Passage. Leo Passage was an award-winning hairdresser in Europe after World War II. And with almost no money in his pocket, him and his wife came to the United States. They ended up in Chicago, and they started working in the beauty industry. People started asking him about his technique, and eventually he created a curriculum around it, schools around it, started selling the types of products that people needed to study hair, which would be mannequins primarily. Mm-hmm. And his son and daughter came in the business, and he now has 3 of his grandsons in the business. Now, when I say third generation, it's third generation business, but if you go further back, Leo Passage's father was a barber, so it's basically the family business.
I love that. That's always the best because I feel like it bands everybody together, and you just hear great success stories of, family-run businesses because that impact is driven so deep into the family. I mean, there's so much that Pivot Point does, and I know sustainability because, I met you through the Green Beauty community and all of your work and just support from Pivot Point to the Green Beauty community and the sustainability aspects of the beauty industry. So where does Pivot Point stand with sustainability?
So one way to think about it is not only is it a third generation family business, but every member of the family is a beauty school graduate. Everyone in the family, and also pretty much everyone in the company, is deeply committed to the industry and the success of the industry. And we don't look at sustainability as some kind of standalone. We look at it as smart business and a smart way to live. Respect our products, respect our businesses, respect our environment, respect each other. And that's really where it comes from, a much, much deeper commitment to the industry and its people. And one of the things that we recognized early on was that we could do a much, much better job. And when I say we, I'm talking about not just the company, but I'm talking about the industry collectively in terms of recycling things, eliminating waste, just being smart about our use of resources, which, as we all know, are not unlimited. And resources that go into garbage dumps stay in garbage dumps. A long, long time ago, and Leo Passage passed away probably 12 or 13 years ago, Leo said, we have to come up with a better alternative to our mannequins, because it made him really upset to see all these mannequins going into landfill. And what we've been working on since then is something which we now call the CAP series. And it's basically a mannequin where you can separate the head form and the hair, which actually allows us to recycle the mannequin completely. And we have a program with Green Circle Salons to do just that. So that's a long time dream he had before lots of people were talking about sustainability. And it really extends to other things. So when we saw the green beauty community first being developed, our first thought was, how can we help support them? Because we're part of the same environment, the same ecosystem, and anything that we can do to help and support them, we're obligated, not just from a business and community standpoint, but morally as well.
And I love that about Pivot Point. I mean, we've had many conversations, and I've been in the room with you a lot of like those behind the scenes and the true commitment and passion that Pivot Point and you have with the beauty industry and with sustainability in it, because it really does take all of us, every single different part, coming together and having some sort of system around reducing our waste and just doing better. And I was telling you before we got on, I got the pleasure of actually playing around with the Cap Series Mannequin, which it is so phenomenal because I've been in the beauty industry 26 years and then, schooling before that. And I remember all of the mannequins that you would, you cut, and then there's not a whole lot you can do with them afterwards. It's literally just into the trash. So I think this is a super revolutionary idea to make such a big difference to something that every single cosmetologist, every single beauty professional really has to have. So that's really exciting. How long has that been out now?
Well, it's been in development for years and years and years. There have been other iterations of it which really needed some work. It's only fairly recently that we were able to produce one which not only met the environmental standards, but also the quality standards we wanted.
Yes.
And that's perhaps in the last year or so. Once we had that, we got together with Green Circle Salons and said, what do we need to do to make this fully recyclable? And there was some work at their end, there was some work at our end, and we have a test program out now. And based on its success, we hope to expand it to the entire industry.
That is fantastic. So if somebody's listening and they're trying, like they get one of the mannequins, how do they recycle it? Do they have to have Green Circle salons? Like what is the process around that?
Well, right now it has to be Green Circle Salons because, as you know, different materials have to be processed in different ways, and they have structured themselves, and they have a lot of salon programs already, and they're working with lots and lots of companies and a lot of events in our industries. They figured out how to do it better than anybody else, as far as I know. Like I said, we're still kind of testing it in the sense that people have to change their behaviors a little bit. And it's something which is going to take a little bit of time. Cap Series mannequins are being used. People love them, not just because you can recycle them, but also because they're mix and match. You can have different tone mannequins with different types of hair color, and they're easy to transport. So if you think about it, you're going somewhere, you're going to an academy. Instead of having 4 mannequins, you have your one head form and you have 4 different hair pieces. So it's easy to store, it's easy to put in your locker, it's easy to take on a train or a plane or anything like that. So it's really revolutionary. And it's one of those things when people see it, they go, I can't believe this didn't exist before.
I said that when I was in the class, and I got a chance because I've seen and been following Pivot Point and seen the mannequins, but online. So when I got a chance to actually get my hands on one and see how easy it was, and like you said, like if I'm traveling to go to a class and I want to work on 4 different hair types, I don't have to have, how big a mannequin head is. I don't have to carry 4 mannequin heads, or even if I go to the class and they give us mannequin heads. If this is the case, then it's just so much easier and better. And I think the biggest part of like sustainability is to just start to reduce the things that we're using. I love recycling, but that should be like the last part, I feel like, is reducing the amount of things that we use. And this solves a huge problem because we all need mannequin heads.
Yes.
Yeah, it is such a big deal. Just being in the industry for so long, where do you see some of those roadblocks for industry professionals when it comes to sustainability? I know it's learning different habits, but have you noticed anything just being in it?
Before I joined Pivot Point, I've been involved in sustainability for a while, and I did research with Green Circle Salons, and we basically wanted to get a handle on perceptions about sustainability and recycling and a whole host of things across both consumers and professionals. And what we found was there's a small group of people who, no matter the cost, no matter the work involved, they're going to do it because they feel it's the right thing to do. Equally, you have a bunch of people, a small group of people who they're never going to do it just because they don't care about it. And then you have all those people in the middle. And if you can make it really easy for them, so it doesn't take a lot of extra time or cost a lot of extra money or any at all, then they're going to do it because it's the right thing to do. So the first thing we really need to do is to get people thinking about these things. And you're right. It's a little confusing and overwhelming to people when you talk about global warming. But when you talk about things like when you pour excess color down the drain, where does it go? And it's much more personal. They start thinking about it. When you talk about, garbage, where does the garbage end up?
Mhm.
And once people start thinking about it, they start making better choices. And that's really where we are right now. I think there's been a lot of very, very good work where people say, it's important. I want to do something. And what can I do? And it's like anything else. People are going to do different things depending upon their time, their resources, their comfort level. But I think the most important thing is to think about it and get started in whatever way you can.
Yeah, and that can be simple steps. I mean, it doesn't mean that everything has to happen all at once because, like you said, it can be overwhelming. And there are so many different steps that we can take. Where do you find some of the easier steps that you've seen people start to take that are kind of in that middle ground, that are interested but not really sure where to go?
So I'll give you a pivot point example. We looked at what we were doing, within our main office, and we said, what are the types of things we could do? And somebody said, you know what, we're throwing out a lot of plastic spoons and forks. Why don't we have somebody bring in regular spoons and forks, steel spoons and forks, metal spoon and forks, which you're not using at home, and we'll just use them instead. And that's what we did.
Fantastic. What an easy solution. And because a lot of people worry about it being so expensive, that's a free solution. You were bringing them from home that you weren't even using.
Yeah, and technology is also going to help a lot. So there are
Mhm.
companies like Vish, for example, which actually let you, more purposefully measure out how much color you're going to be using. And there's not only a business case for this, it also means that less is poured back into the environment.
Yeah, I've been a Vish salon for probably 3, 4 years, somewhere around there, and it has made everything I could not run my business the way that I do right now without Vish because it tracks everything for us. We don't have to worry about, like, what did we put in the formula last time? How much did we change it from, last time to 3 years ago when they came in? And then we also have seen such a drop in our waste. So that means less money going down the drain for the business owner,
Yeah.
ease for the stylist because they literally just throw it on the scale. They can see exactly what they need down to the minute details, and then better, clearer, and consistent results for the client. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. And it doesn't have to be super hard.
No, the hardest thing for anyone is to change. We get very, very settled. There's a
Mhm.
comfort level, and it's a little bit painful. But usually, when you do something new, after a while, you realize it's not really that hard. I think all of us, and it's not just in terms of addressing our environment and sustainability, it's in everything we do. We always have to push ourselves a little bit.
Of course, and think a little bit outside of the box.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I really love about the green beauty community, and why when Daniel reached out to me a few years ago, why I jumped on board to be the co-founder is because I really saw that passion, and also the dedication of just simplifying some of these things that seem so overwhelming and so hard, and really educating in a way to just bring the simple steps to it, and very, creative, business minded, because that's what we have to do. Whether you own a salon or not, we have to run our business behind the chair, and we are creatives. And two of those things don't always go together, and they can get kind of jumbled up and hard. So we
Right.
try to simplify it. But I love how much support you immediately came into Green Beauty community. What inspired you to jump in on that?
First of all, it needed to be done. It wasn't being done.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate people like you and Daniel who, with no agenda beyond just how can we help, dive into the deep end.
Yeah.
And uh, you were working very, very hard. And we all look at what you're doing and saying, okay, they're working really hard. We have skill sets, we have resources they may not have. So, what's really, really hard for you to accomplish might not be that hard for us to accomplish. And that's how we got started with the guidebook. We had talked a lot about what are the types of things that stylists, salon owners, people in the industry need to know, need to be thinking about. Where would they go for information? And there really was no one good source. There were several sources, but there was no one good source that wasn't commercially driven, meaning it wasn't just a group of people who didn't have anything to sell you. They didn't have an agenda. They just wanted to make a difference. And between you and Daniel, you had all the content. You knew what was important. You knew what people needed to be connected with. You understood who all the other organizations were. And at Pivot Point, we had the resources to develop and design something. Unfortunately, my past history, I was very involved in developing and designing content media. And we were able to put together something which I think we can all be very proud of. We just updated it this year because for somebody who is overwhelmed by the topic, like you said, it's an opportunity for them to look at it and go, well, it's not really that overwhelming. And here's the information that I can get, and I can do it at my own pace. And if I want to do more, here are the people and groups and resources I can take advantage of.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I love about the guide, and I have to give a little shout out to Daniel for reaching out, and also to Hannah and Maisie, who were the other co-founders of the Green Beauty community, because woo, we put some blood, sweat, and tears, and they know what I'm talking about, into the Green Beauty community. But we're super appreciative of companies like yourself and InnerSense who jumped in the very beginning to help give us those resources, because it is, we care about the stylists, and we're all in the industry in some sort of capacity that really brings the what is needed for the industry professionals, right?
Yeah, and you're right to call out Hannah and Maisie because they did an amazing job. When you see things succeed or get traction, it's because you have people who really, really care. And there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, I want to help," but they're busy. They have other things going on. But all of you had other things going on and really jumped in. And you mentioned InnerSense. Greg at InnerSense, I mean, he basically just said, "How can I help?"
Yes.
And he has been a tremendous partner to Green Beauty community. And when you find people like that, you really have to be appreciative. But you also have to surround yourself with people like that because you're going to have the best outcome when you get together people who are passionate about something.
100%. And I just had Greg on the episode, or on the podcast, and we talked all about his role in there, and just the care and the mission behind InnerSense, which is huge in sustainability, and goes so much further than that. So definitely big shout out to Greg. And there's a lot of pivotal people who helped us get going and continue to get that name out there. But I find the most exciting to me of all of that was who we're surrounding ourselves with and creating those relationships, and also seeing the traction and the need and want from the beauty professionals, showing us that they actually care about this, which I found to just be so exciting. Because, I mean, me, Daniel, Hannah, and Maisie always talked about in the beginning, like we felt very alone, like we kind of stood out to a lot of the beauty professionals in the industry because we were talking about things that just were different and change. And now we see a lot of community around that and people actually hungry for that type of information and change in the industry. It's really beautiful. When we're talking about the guidebook, like what went into the guidebook from Pivot Point in like doing the research for and putting it all together?
It was a collaborative effort, and you were heavily involved with it, and Daniel and Hannah and Maisie were heavily involved with it. But the first thing was getting a handle on what information the industry needed.
Yeah.
You could go in a lot of different ways, but you have to figure out, what am I trying to accomplish here? And what we were trying to accomplish wasn't, we want to be the definitive resource, or we want a textbook, or anything like that. It was, we want people to know there's a community if they want to get involved. We want to give them basic information to get started. We're not looking to be controversial at all. We're just looking to accelerate the process. So once we understood that mindset, and once we had a better sense of what information would be valuable, it was just going out, all of us, and saying, okay, where does that information live? Where does it reside? Then taking the information and saying, how drilled down does it need to be? And then our design team at Pivot Point did an incredible job of basically taking all this content and putting it together in a way which is easy to read, very digestible, has a logical flow to it, tells a story that you can pick up or put up in a million different places within the guidebook. But it also gives you the information to take all those next steps you might want to take. So I look at, and we recently updated it this year with some new links and some new partners and things like that. But it wasn't created to be a static thing. It was created to inspire people to say, what else do we need? And if people come to us and say, hey, you really should include this type of information, or let's think about this, or here's some other things you can do. It's a digital product. Digital products are made to be interactive. Digital products are made to be updated. So I would encourage anyone to reach out to Daniel at Green Beauty Community and say, hey, Daniel, here's what I think might be valuable. And then we'll figure out, if it is, how we can make it possible.
I love that. And that's the best part about it is ever evolving. And that is the beauty industry. Like nothing we do in the beauty industry is static. It continues to evolve, things change, resources change. So being able to jump into that at any time, and of course, we're going to have that linked. You can get the guide linked below and all of the resources and everything we're talking about, because it's important to start that journey. Whether you're already way into it or you're just starting, it's super valuable. With Pivot Point, what other types of research and education, because you guys have a lot of stuff going on, what else do you have there for the beauty professional?
So Pivot Point functions in both the school space and the professional space. Mm-hmm. In the professional space, it's primarily through our mannequins. And our mannequins are SA 8000 certified, which means that workers are paid living wages, that we're environmentally conscious, a whole host of things like that. We actually purchased our main factory a few years ago so we could have control both over that and over the quality of the mannequins that were produced. And then in the school space, we provide education, a learning platform, which is a technology interface, which was created specifically for the way beauty school students learn. Beauty school students are visual learners. And then all the other things they need in terms of kits and mannequins and things like that. So we're very, very heavily involved in the entire industry. And we want to be a good corporate citizen. So in terms of the types of things we do a lot of research internally, and that's to help us develop programs and content and things like that. But we also do research on topics which are really important, and somebody should do some research on them. So the generational divide and the fact that different generations communicate in different ways, and that the relationship with the generations or between the generations changed dramatically after COVID and the push towards tech adoption. We did research on that. We did research on how education has changed post-pandemic in terms of people's expectations. We recently did a white paper on technology in the beauty industry based on an executive roundtable with Beauty Changes Lives. We did research on the bridal community because there was no research on it, and everyone kept asking, tell me more about the bridal community. Most recently, we did research with BeautyCast Network on career counselors, because the whole conversation about careers has changed dramatically in the past few years. And where you used to have parents saying you have to go to college, there's less and less of that. AI is going to be the first major technology shift that really impacts white-collar jobs more than blue-collar jobs, or rather than service jobs. Mm-hmm. So people are looking at our jobs differently. People started realizing how much they own in college loans that they still hadn't paid off. And they're saying, is there a more sustainable option for me than going to college, where I can start earning money sooner and where I'm not going to be displaced? And we wanted to find out how high school career counselors found our careers. And it's very encouraging that they really see growth opportunities. So it also identified not just the opportunity to work with them, but the types of information they needed to most successfully communicate who we are and what we do with the students in their schools. So these are all the types of things which there's no specific money to be made doing it, but it's really, really important to our community. And that kind of comes back to the third generation family business. Pivot Point is not functioning in other marketplaces. We don't have a plan B. Our plan is to make the beauty industry and the people in the beauty industry as successful as possible. And if we can make the industry and the people in the industry successful, we will be successful.
I love that so much. And like I said, from the beginning, when we started working together, you just see the passion, and that's where you see something different. So anyone listening, like looking at that, and how do you start to research? I mean, just jump into what attracts you and what's important to you, and start looking at the research and diving into these companies who are doing such amazing things. So I know I'm super appreciative, and I love everything that Pivot Point is doing and the intention behind everything.
Well, the intention really comes from people asking us or saying to us, mm-hmm. Do you know anything about this? The post-pandemic education research we did was a result of all these big companies who we work with, sell mannequins to, saying, here's what we're doing. Here's how our education is different. What are other people doing? And realizing that, yeah, I knew what a couple of other people are doing, but I really didn't know that much. I didn't know what the big macro trends were. I didn't know how people had changed their staffing, how people had changed their structure, what the balance between live and online was. And we said, you know what? A lot of people want to know about this. let's do the research. And research is not easy. People think you just go write up some questions and you do it, but there's a lot of pre-research to talk to people and identify really what are the issues, what do people need to know. There's programming the research, you ask the questions in the right way. And so if anything comes up, you can really drill down. It's getting back the initial research and then going to people in the marketplace and saying, does this make sense to you? Why or why not? And having them really explain things and give you the background, the context. And then it's taking the research and writing a report, but writing it in a way where it's easy for people to read it, understand it, engage with it, and use it. People have to be able to say, okay, I know what this is. I know why it's important. I know why it impacts me. And I have a pretty good sense of some of the things I should start thinking about or perhaps doing. And we don't do research for it to exist in a vacuum. It's really very purposeful and it's very action oriented towards helping people in this industry make better decisions. And that includes sustainability.
Yeah. Yeah, it includes all of those pieces. So, with someone listening, like, what would their first step be if they really want to start to look into this research, regardless of where they want to dive into, whether it is sustainability or whatever? What is the best action step for them to really start to take action on not just reading the research, but moving forward in the industry?
I always think that everything you need to know, the people around you just haven't spoken to all of them and you just haven't vetted things. So I think the best thing to do with research is to read it and then talk to people about it, or to have other people read it too and say, what jumped out at you? What seems wrong? What don't you understand? How are you addressing this? One of the things, for example, we did with our bridal research was we asked them about, do you have any tips for anyone who's interested in getting in this area of the business? Or what are some best practices? And all of those spark thinking and encourage you to think about things perhaps a little bit differently. And then you start talking to people and you start figuring out, okay, how does this apply to me? How do I turn this into something useful and productive? The people around you know. I mean, you get a bunch of beauty professionals in a room, and after they've had a chance to talk things through, which they don't always have, they pretty much sorted things out.
So true. And that bases on, again, what is your community? Who are you surrounding yourself with? And what types of things are going to keep moving your business forward?
And one of the things I always encourage people to do is to meet as many people as you can. And I always tell people who are going to conferences or trade shows, don't spend your entire time talking to 2 or 3 people you went with.
Yes.
Force yourself to sit down and talk to other people. And it doesn't have to be structured. It can be online with coffee. It can be in a trade show booth. It can be when you're having lunch. It can be a whole host of different situations. But what do they think about this? Why did they come? What were they looking to learn? It's very easy to get caught up in that small group who you spend most of your time with. But the challenge is that small group you spend most of your time with, they're exposed to a certain set of ideas. And you know certain stuff, but there are people on the other side of the state who know different things that might be valuable. And it's just as likely they may not know what you know.
And that's how you grow. And one of the things that I love that I've seen more over the last maybe towards 10 years is more of that connection and relationship within the beauty professional setting. Because when I first started getting into, into cosmetology and everything, I remember going to some of these trade shows and trying to talk about different things. If it wasn't just a haircut or a color, a lot of the business behind the scenes, different like conversations were a little bit more hush hush. And it wasn't really talked about or felt very like in competition. And that has changed dramatically over the years.
Yeah, so think about it this way. Prior to the pandemic, People were traveling a lot more, going to many more events. You weren't doing things on live, you're doing things live. The pandemic came, you stopped traveling so much. There are less events to go to. A lot of your meetings are now online, which are very, very different. So I would suggest that people are conscious of the fact that they have to make an effort to make these connections. Where in the past, it was much more opportunistic. It's, oh, I'm going to be bumping into a lot of people. I'm going to be talking to people. But now, if I'm going to an event or if I'm going to a party or if I'm going to something else, that this may be my big opportunity to connect with people for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Maybe I can make the most of it. And it happens both ways. The brands, the associations, the trade shows, the educators, they're all much, much more conscious of this. And I think together they've done an amazing job of making themselves available and accessible.
Oh, for sure. I know I love it because I wasn't always able to get out and go to all the trade shows. So being able to have other options has expanded my knowledge and what I'm capable of and what my team is capable of.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to, have those relationships, continue to reach out and be conscious about the questions that you ask, the people that you're asking, and, being intentional about getting outside of your comfort zone, which, is around change, right? Everything that we're talking about is change.
And it comes back to how we started the conversation when I said, you can learn something from every single person you run into if you take the time to try and find out what it is.
I love that. And I think that's a good place to, wrap up this conversation and maybe challenge the audience to, look at that. Where can you start to make some changes and reach out and just find the research that you're interested in, reach out to a few people and ask the questions. Well, tell us, Steve, where people can follow you and Pivot Point and what's coming up next for Pivot Point.
What's coming up next? We have a lot of things that are coming up next. Can't really talk about some of them. What I can say is if you want more information about Pivot Point, go to pivot-point.com. Scroll down to the bottom of the landing page, our footer. And in the footer, you'll see links to diversity and inclusion, textured hair, sustainability, wellness. We did a big research project on wellness to find out how wellness was impacting the industry. And we did it both for people in beauty schools, students and instructors, but also for professionals. And that was really eye-opening. But if you look there, specifically under research, lots and lots of information. And there's an opportunity to reach out through a form, and you fill out the form, who you are, how you'd like us to contact you. And it comes to me, and I'm happy to reach out and make new connections with people who I can learn from.
I love that. Fabulous. So, of course, we'll have all of that linked here. Is there anything like a final word you would like to say, Steve?
I appreciate what you're doing because, every journey starts with a single step, and it's the people who keep walking and keep marching and stick things through that really have an impact. And I appreciate what you're doing because it's important.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your support. It means the world to me, and I know to the green beauty community. And this is what it's all about. I'm very lucky to have known and had relationship and learned from so many wise and amazing people in the industry. So I'm going to keep on marching because I love it.
There you go. Huh.
Thank you, Steve, for being on. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please make sure to check out all of Steve's wonderful information on Pivot Point. Look at the mannequins, look at the research, and let us know what you need and what more research you would love to hear. So thank you for watching.